Hello, welcome to the 2011 NFL Preseason Schedule Week 1 picks. I would like to thank all of you viewers that viewed my channel last year and subscribed to my channel. Thanks for making my channel visible to the whole entire world. And now let's get down to the business now that the lockout is finally over. We'll start off between Jacksonville at New England at 6:30 Central Time on August 11th. Behind Brady is a solid backup in Brian Hoyer and a mercurial rookie Ryan Mallett. While he doesn't have a strong arm, Hoyer can still handle a tough situation when called upon thanks to his intelligence. I will also look for the talented Mallett to light up the Jacksonville secondary, and while Jacksonville has fared well in the last two drafts, the secondary is the unit that still needs a major overhaul. No unit has struggled on a more consistent basis than the pass defense in recent seasons. Every starter in the secondary has been the object of derision from fans or spent time in Del Rio's doghouse. The unit's best player, cornerback Rasheed Mathis, has only 9 interceptions the last 4 years after recording 18 the previous 3 seasons. Derek Cox, the only starter, was benched for a couple games early last year, only to return with replacement David Jones became a non-factor, even though veteran Luke McCown was resigned as insurance policy. It was only a stopgap measure. Overall, there's still a lot more improving that Jacksonville needs to do in their secondary. I will look for Brady and Hoyer and Mallett to combine for 3 touchdowns, 1 each. Patriots 24, Jaguars 3. On August 11th at 6:30 Central Time, it's Baltimore at Philadelphia. There's a lot of hype going into this game. This could be a potential Super Bowl 46 matchup? Well, certainly. However, there are still some flaws to be worked out for both teams. Philadelphia promoted longtime offensive line coach Juan Castillo to defensive coordinator and brought in renowned defensive line coach Jim Washburn in an attempt to remedy an effective pass rush and an abysmal red zone defense that cost Sean McDermott his job. Castillo, a former linebacker, has hinted that he'll be more involved with coaxing production out of his linebackers and defensive backs, while Washburn will preside over defensive line rotations and personnel. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, there are no more options left for Ravens offensive coordinator Cam Cameron. Either he fixes the offense this season, or he will be looking for a new job. Read it whatever you want into that statement. Last season, Baltimore gave Cameron wide receivers Bolden, Hujmanzada, and Stallworth to complement the running game that had been one of the league's best in 2008 through 2009, and the results were disappointing. It can't be the same in 2011. If so, Cameron won't be around for 2012. But make no mistake, this should be a game that will come down to the end. Eagles 27, Ravens 24. On August 11th at 7 o'clock Central Time on ESPN, it's Seattle at San Diego. Despite a surprise playoff berth in 2010 through 2011, there's still a lot more to do in Seattle. Yes, the house cleaning during Carroll's first year as coach took Seattle back to the playoffs. But Seattle's renovation, however, remains to be in its early stages. Don't let a shocking victory over New Orleans trick you into thinking Seattle is still worth going back this year. The question Carroll inherited at quarterback is even more muddled now than a year ago, and Seattle did not have a single Pro Bowler for the second consecutive year. Carroll still thinks that Seattle has made a lot of strides. I don't think so. This is a team that still has a long way to go. On the other side of the field, bringing back Volek is imperative because Seattle covets a veteran that they can rely on whenever Rivers goes down, etc. And Volek has been in San Diego since 2006, so he knows Shellman's offensive system very well. Chargers 20, Seahawks 6. On August 11th at 7:30 Central Time, it's Denver at Dallas. Although Tebow showed great promise last year, it's unfair that he has to deal with this coaching staff. There's nothing like a quarterback controversy to get the masses stirred up. Orton is the obvious choice to start, even though a rib injury kept him out of the final 3 games in 2010 through 2011, and prevented him from surpassing the career numbers he posted in 2009 to 2010. Orton is well respected by his teammates, but he hasn't demonstrated that he can make big plays off the script that define great quarterbacks. Tebow isn't as well versed in the schedule plays too, and even though Orton is the safer option, the lack of off-season workouts due to the lockout will work against both of them. For Dallas, Garrett really pushed the team closer to their potential that its talented roster has. If the pass defense rebounds and Roma can stay healthy, then Dallas could sneak into wild card contention. But that will remain to be seen once the playoff run starts in November or December. Cowboys 21, Broncos 13. On August 11th at 9 o'clock Central Time, it's Arizona at Oakland. Kurt Warner had no problems with retirement in 2010. For Arizona, on the other hand, had all kinds of difficulties dealing with it and will now try to cope with Kevin Kolb heading into the 2011 through 2012 campaign. Even though Cobb settled himself well in Philadelphia, he'll still have his hands full trying to come up a potential hot seat burning up on Ken Whisenhunt. The offensive line will also be too unstable for Kolb, and there's very little depth at wide receiver. The pass rush is lacking, and several defensive players are coming off bad seasons. After a 5-11 start, there's still a lot more to fix and very little time to do it. Meanwhile, in Oakland, there's something interesting about the confidence of Hugh Jackson that seems to fit the personality of this team. So I wouldn't sleep on the Raiders. They could linger around the wild card hunt in November and December and hope to not put up with a late fade, but yet again, like Dallas, that will remain to be seen until then. Raiders 28, Cardinals 7. On August 12th, at 6:30 Central Time, it's Pittsburgh at Washington. Pittsburgh stops the run and sacks the quarterback better than any team in the NFL and has a knack for making interceptions too. There is little Dick LeBeau's defense can't do, which is why the unit annually ranks him on the best in the league. LeBeau is back for another season to use his zone blitz schemes to confuse the quarterbacks. But all of that works because he makes sure his front seven can stop the run. Smith, 35, is expected to be fully recovered for 2011 through 2012, but Smith is part of a 30-something unit that includes 5-time Pro Bowl nose tackle Casey Hampton, 33, and Brett Kiesel, 32. Smith's injury had a silver lining last year because it allowed for the rapid development of Ziggy Hood and showcased some of this talent, something the Steelers can't ignore in 2011 through 2012. In Washington, the Redskins are doing the best they can to reset and catch up with the rest of the division, but that will be very difficult to do with a constant quarterback shuffle. Shanahan has more than a 2-year challenge ahead of himself. Steelers 13, Redskins 14. On August 12th at 6:30 Central Time, it's Miami at Atlanta. During all the turmoil that surrounded Miami last season, the defense was immune to a bulk of it. The unit was often exceptional, looking like a group of players that could have made a respectable charge in the playoffs had the offense done enough to get him there. Coordinator Mike Nolan installed a fierce, player-friendly system during his first year in Miami, as they ranked 6th in total defense. Miami utilized a hybrid scheme that provided attacks from more creative angles. There was only one concern, though. If they perform just as well on defense, Nolan might be gone because he may eventually be hired as a coach elsewhere. Make no mistake, Nolan made some incredible things for that unit last year, especially considering how badly the group struggled in 2009 through 2010. But in 2010 through 2011, they fought their asses off. In Atlanta, defensive coordinator Brian Van Gorder took more chances in 2010 through 2011 and tried to blitz as often as he could, but the defenders were not able to get to the quarterback on a consistent basis. The gambles were met with mixed results. Atlanta seems to be on a never-ending quest to get pass rushers. Abraham turned 33 in May, and they figured to have a revamped linebacking core, but Atlanta must find an answer at the nickelback position immediately. Otherwise, they will have their hands full containing Thomas from the second round, who could be valuable as long as he can provide the capability of making an immediate impact. Dolphins 32, Falcons 31. On August 12th at 6:30 Central Time, it's Cincinnati at Detroit. Cliff Averill has a chance to blossom into one of the league's top premier pass rushers because he's likely going to see a lot of one-on-one matchups, especially against a Cincinnati offensive line that's well known more for its run blocking than pass protection. But the offensive line in Cincinnati has been together long enough where they have to realize that they must become more consistent if that young changing offense wants to be successful this year. Otherwise, I would look for Averill to have no more than 2 sacks and perhaps a forced fumble. Lions 35, Bengals 14. On August 12th at 7 o'clock Central Time on Fox, it's Tampa Bay at Kansas City. If you find a way to take Bull out of the game, Kansas City is going to struggle. They also don't respond well on offense when you overpower them physically. That's what Oakland and Baltimore did to them last year, and look at what happened in the outcome of those games. Josh Johnson is a neat fourth-year pro who has a role that goes far beyond holding a clipboard and running the scout team in practices. Occasionally, he will come in for at least one play and run the stingy Wildcat offense, which gives opposing defenses a misfit of different looks from the field. Buccaneers 14, Chiefs 9. On August 12th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's San Francisco at New Orleans. If you take a real close look at New Orleans, teams had a lot of success against them in the special teams department. Whether it's pinning them back deep and having to make them drive the field or breaking big returns on them. I think this game could be won based on special teams because if you look at San Francisco, Andy Lee had one of the highest net averages in the league, and long snapper Brian Jennings remains the best at his position. Ginn was so secure as a punt returner, and remember, he took a punt 70 yards to the house against St. Louis in Week 16. Will he take one into the house in New Orleans? Certainly. In fact, I would be willing to bet that he could take at least one for a touchdown and have 2 go 80-plus yards as long as Ginn gets San Francisco in the red zone. I will expect Harbaugh to use fullback or multiple tight end sets and dissect New Orleans' defense using an array of formations and motions to keep them on their heels. Harbaugh will be very aggressive and competitive. Also, as college teams have taken on their coach's disposition. 49ers 16, Saints 13. On August 13th at 6:30 Central Time on NFL Network, it's Green Bay at Cleveland. There probably isn't a more talented team in the NFL than the Green Bay Packers, but as Mike McCarthy said before, talent doesn't always win championships. Recapturing the chemistry on this team will be difficult without question because expectations will be enormously sky high. Eagles will be in launch mode and many players will be thinking about getting paid. That's the poison McCarthy has to keep out of the locker room if he's going to have any chance of repeating as champion. Expect a division title at the least out of Green Bay, and if all goes well, another Super Bowl trip. However, in Cleveland, Colt McCoy was in chin-up mode the whole entire year. He still has to keep growing, and he will have to learn to trust what he sees eventually. That's always hard for a rookie coming into the league because you will never know what he will do with his learning. He didn't have a lot of weapons around him last year, and the bottom line is he needs some help. Otherwise, look for the head scratching to continue in Cleveland. Packers 38, Browns 10. On August 13th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's Minnesota at Tennessee. It's impossible to know exactly how Munchak will operate in his first season as head coach. Chances are he'll be a lot like the man he replaced, Jeff Fisher. Look for Munchak to rely on his run game, and one of his top priorities is to return the defense to championship caliber play. He will likely lean more to the conservative side in year one as he gets more comfortable. And while he will probably never be a riverboat gambler, he did play in the high-flying and run-and-shoot days in Houston, so he's used to some excitement. Meanwhile, for my Vikings, there's an easy determination to me. The offensive line needs to be addressed because Favre got hit a ton. With Mount McKinney out, Hutchinson is already getting paid. He's already getting up there in the years. He will be 34 on November 1st. And there are problems up front, and right now I personally think that's our biggest problem. The offensive line. Titans 18, Vikings 10. On August 13th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's Indianapolis at St. Louis. On many levels, Josh McDaniels was a disaster as head coach in Denver, but no one doubts his offensive acumen, particularly in the passing game. St. Louis represents a great opportunity for him as a coordinator to restore his name and resume. McDaniels is an inexperienced play caller, and ideally he would like to take more chances and throw the ball down the field more than his predecessor, Pat Shurmur. That will put more pressure on the pass blockers and place more responsibility on the shoulder of the quarterbacks. There are very little weaknesses in Indianapolis, but I can only think of one thing. They don't even try in the preseason. Rams 34, Colts 12. On August 13th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's the Giants of New York at Carolina. Carolina still has some issues, even though some parts of the team are strong. The offensive line is steady, but look at what's going on the other side. They're counting on Jeff Otah coming back healthy, but he looks like a guy who might stay hurt and take his time getting back out there. Seriously, unless there was more to the story than what I have heard so far, I was shocked a knee scope kept him out all year. Is he tough? Yes, but his health will always be an issue. Right guard's an issue too. They have a lot of guys out there, but nobody trusts long term. I think that the Giants of New York are so good, but they do have to improve in some areas. The offense is good if they can cut down the turnovers. The defense is solid, not spectacular yet, but they have some guys that might turn out to be playmakers. So I don't think they're that far away from being an excellent team. With a good draft, they'll be right there in the thick of it. I don't think this team is going down. Giants 10, Panthers 6. On August 13th at 7 o'clock Central Time, it's Buffalo at Chicago. The lack of talent was evident in Buffalo's 4-12 record last season. All the holes can't be filled in 1 year, and the outcome of this season will depend on veterans stepping up and recent draft picks living up to their expectations. Buffalo also has to fare better in the AFC East, where they have lost 15 of their last 18 games, and they are 1-11 over the past 2 campaigns. It's hard to imagine anything better than a third-place finish given the competition in the AFC East. It's uncertain whether Chicago ever truly picked up on the offensive system of coordinator Mike Martz in 2010 through 2011. Poor pass protection made him scale back his vertical passing game so much that it resembled the West Coast offense at times. Personnel still isn't in place for the offense to become the greatest show on Soldier Field's bad turf. Whether Martz can continue to keep his true gambling nature under wraps as he did in the second half of 2010 through 2011 will remain a point of interest all season long. I'll give the edge to Chicago. Bears 26, Bills 19. Now on August 15th, wrapping up week 1 of the 2011 NFL preseason schedule, it's the Jets of New York at Houston on 7 o'clock at ESPN. Ryan coaches much like his personality. He is bold and he is willing to take risks with all blitzes on defense and often going for it on fourth down on offense. The former is a byproduct of the confidence he has in his defense. He prefers a conservative offense but doesn't mind quick gadget plays. Kubiak loves the balance of his offense as Houston ranked 4th in passing and 7th in rushing last year as a result. He also loves to run the bootleg with Matt Schaub. Kubiak will throw for 3rd and 1 and run on 4th and 1, especially with Schaub on the quarterback sneak. Kubiak doesn't gamble in his own territory though, and Ryan loves to take chances even on the road. Jets win 38-35. And that concludes my 2011 NFL preseason schedule week 1 picks. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.